and welcome the Morrison County Board of Adjustment public hearing for April 30th, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have a few items to cover before we get started. Please sign in at the door if you have not already done so. You will also find a detailed handout of a step-by-step procedure which we will follow tonight. If you wish, you can take one. Please put all electronic devices on a silent mode at this time. Also, please note that all testimony is being recorded for the record. Members of the Board of Adjustment are been appointed by the Morrison County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts. Land Service staff is here to assist the Board of Adjustment with its duties. The task of the Board of Adjustment is to consider requests for variances and appeals for any order, requirement, or decision made by a county zoning official in accordance with the state law and its county ordinance. Each request is considered on its own merit. The burden of providing a practical difficulty rests with the applicant. If a variance is granted, it is granted to the land, not the landowner. There's a protocol for how we will proceed tonight. For each variance request on the agenda, we will hear a staff report, hear testimony from the applicants, and then the board will discuss and gather more information as needed. Next, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request. I will ask each party to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. Please be as factual as possible and direct all statements and questions to me. After all testimony is complete, I will close the public hearing portion of the process. The board will then review and discuss the case in the terms of our fact or finding criteria, as required to Minnesota statute and county ordinance. We'll have a series of votes, discuss whether conditions be made, and have a final motion to approve or deny the request based on those findings. After this final vote on the request, you may leave if you wish. Our first regular agenda on this evening is Thomas Spoden at 31105 Fish Trap Lake Drive, Cushing, Minnesota. Application for a variance to add onto a non-conforming structure located in lots 68 and 69, Pan Shore lots, section 29, township 132, range 31 of Scandia Valley Township. Would the applicant or applicants please step forward and state their name?
Tom Spoden.
Julie Kenyon.
Okay, and your address is?
13190 County Road 131, Holdingford, Minnesota, 56340.
Okay, thank you and welcome here. Staff, do you have a report on this variance?
I do, Mr. Chair. So again, this is a variance request to expand the existing dwelling within the shore impact zone. It's located in section 29 of Scandia Valley Township. The ordinance references for this request is 706.1, which requires a 75-foot setback from the lake. And then 706.1A identifies the shore impact zone as the first 50 feet from the water. And then here's a plat map of Scandia Valley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the variance request received from the applicant. And then a site drawing also provided by the applicant. And then some shoreline information. Here's an aerial photograph of the property outlined in blue and yellow. And then here's an aerial photograph of the dwelling. Then here's some site photographs taken at the viewing on the 26th of April. Again, the property is in Section 29 of Scandia Valley Township on Fish Trap Lake. The property comprises 2 parcels and is a non-conforming single lot size, which means it's less than 120 feet wide at the lake and 30,000 square feet in area. The parcel is 83 feet wide and 8,200 square feet. A 384 square foot dwelling built in 1969 exists on the property. There is a partial foundation with the remainder of the structure on stilts. It is 10 feet from the lake and at the toe of a bluff. And then here is a side view of the existing structure. The applicant purchased the property in March of 2024. The applicant requests a variance to expand the dwelling by placing a full basement below the dwelling to increase the living space. This would also result in an approximate 3-foot overall height increase to the structure to get a full basement and maintain a 3-foot elevation above the ordinary high water mark. A holding tank serves the dwelling, and a pump was going to be needed to be installed to serve a lower level bathroom, but my understanding is that there is not a lower level bathroom proposed at this time. The existing impervious surface calculation is 6.45%, and that would not change with this expansion. No building envelope exists on this property, and you've got a drawing of those setbacks drawn in that they overlap. The applicant did attend a development review team meeting, and here are the notes for that. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1, and then the comprehensive water plan goals and objectives, this is surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, and objectives B and D. 85 notices were sent, and I actually received 2 comments prior to the hearing. I'll read those. One is from Lisa Smith, and that is the neighbor immediately next door. She stated she has concerns with runoff, erosion control, elevation change from the neighbors, removal of retaining walls, the impact to her property, and just wondering how all of that would be accomplished. And then she noted it's an eyesore. And the other comment was from Ron Naipan. He said, "This involves a variance request for a non-conforming structure. I do not agree with this request. People know what they bought and should know what the rules are when they purchased it. This kind of change to structures close to the lake should not be allowed. My only issue that might allow this relates to the 5 non-conforming cabins at Campfire Bay that were replaced with much larger cabins without moving back from the lake. I know it was allowed due to square footage requirements that have changed over the years. If the cabin at 31105 Fish Trap Lake Drive is as small as the original 5 cabins at Campfire Bay, the Board of Adjustment should allow this property owner the same variance." So those are the 2 comments that I received, Mr. Chair. And then here are your finding of fact and decision questions.
Okay, thank you. And for the record, on 426, Amy, George, and Clint were able to make it. Brent, were you able to make it out there?
I drove out there on the 23rd, so the Tuesday before.
Okay, so we all seen it, and we had a nice visit with Thomas. He was, explained things very well to us. Any corrections or input or comments you'd like to make?
I have none.
Mr. Chair, I do have one. We received a call today that there's some excavation work that's already occurring on the site. And of course, that alarmed a lot of people because they knew the variance hearing was
Correct.
tonight. Can you explain what's going on out there?
Correct, but I do have a permit. I worked at Darren. I have a permit to build a new structure, don't I?
No, it has not been granted.
Okay, then I misunderstood that because I thought I had that all approved, and then this was a variance to do the basement. I thought I had approval to put the foundation underneath it.
Okay, so,
That's my misunderstanding. And
Okay.
he wasn't gonna start till tomorrow. His other sites are too muddy. He called me, to can I start? I said, yeah, I wanna get going on it, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so just so you're aware, you don't have a permit to do anything on
Okay.
that site at the moment. So
Okay.
let's make sure we're on the same page with that, okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Board members, any questions, concerns at this moment?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, George.
So, Thomas, so when we visited up there, now you stated that, you're gonna replace the cabin one for one, but then you want to add just one bedroom down in the basement. You're gonna build a new structure. You're not gonna remodel the old one. Am I correct?
no, the corrector's going away and I'm building a new structure.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. That was my question on that.
But it's the same size, it's,
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, same footprint.
Yep,
Yes.
footprint's the same.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
Question for Tom. How many bedrooms are in there now?
It's all gutted out, it's kind of, somebody started demoing it all, and I don't know. I assume there was at least one or two in there, I guess, I don't know.
Okay, and the proposal is now to add one bedroom? Because I thought, I read in here it was to add two in the basement
We
area.
decided against that. We're just gonna do like a sitting area. There's just not enough room to do all that down there with the stairway coming down and everything, so we're just gonna have like a sitting area down there and just closer to the lake, I guess, and then one bedroom down there.
Okay, and no bathroom
No
down there?
bathroom.
No
We're just-
no bedrooms, no bathroom
On the main.
in the basement?
No, one bedroom down there, a bedroom and a sitting area.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Amy.
just to clarify, because this got talked about at the viewing, Brent, there's gonna be one bedroom total. That's gonna be on the lower floor. And then the upstairs then will be where the bathroom and the kitchen and all of that will be. So just to give you an idea of what's going where, so it'll be just a total of one bedroom.
Okay. All right, thanks for clarifying that, Amy.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, George.
another question for you, Tom. So the roof is gonna be the same roof style that's on there now? sloped
Correct.
Both ways?
Same
Okay.
pitch, same style, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Clint.
Thomas, just maybe you could give us a little bit of kind of how we got here. You bought this just a month ago, what you were looking at when you were looking to purchase something. Here you bought this less than a month ago. Now you want to add on more to it, why you picked this over something that maybe would have fit maybe whatever your wishes are, stuff like that. Maybe you can walk us through that.
Correct. But as you guys know, lake property is hard to find. So when I found this, and I knew what I could do. I could put a foundation underneath it and remove the cabin. And then after going through that process with Darren, it's like, well, if I added a couple more feet to this, I could have living quarters now. That's where it all started from. When I bought it, I didn't envision that till it's like, I started measuring and it's like, okay, we're so close and having a room down there, it's like, why not take advantage of that? So that's where it all.
Any more questions, Clint?
I think I'm good for now. Yeah.
Okay. I've got a question for you. Before you purchased this, were you aware that that you were in a toe of the bluff and that you were in a shore impact zone, which very, very rarely we allow any type of expansion in it? Were you aware of that before you made this purchase?
Correct, I was.
Okay, and then you were talking a holding tank, possibly having to move that, do something with the holding tank would stay the
The
same?
holding tank's staying where it is.
Okay, it's the
yeah,
well
yeah.
that you
The
may
holding
have.
tank, according to Darren, I don't think it's even been used ever. I think it's just, they put it in and they never used it. And I looked at it, it's empty.
Okay. And the well, you may have to do something with because it's a shared well at this
Correct.
time. Okay. I have no more questions at this time here. Anybody else have anything?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
Maybe my question is directed towards Amy regarding the pier and post foundation, if that's what we want to call that. It looks like it's block, but
Yeah.
so under the county ordinance and an over-the-county permit, or not even a permit, well, it would be a permit, but could they put the foundation in place of the pier and post and block it all the way up to the current level?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
Darren was out on site to discuss the options for that, and under his replacement right, we would allow the replacement of that pier type of foundation with a block foundation if it's filled in. So they're not gaining any volume, they're not gaining anything but that, because that falls under their right to improve. And so so yes, that would be allowed if he wanted to replace that foundation with a full block foundation, but it would need to be backfilled.
Okay,
And that's been discussed with the applicant.
okay, so that's known.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this point, I believe there's no more questions. So I'm going to open it up to the public here. So if you would like to state your name and address for the records and speak close to the microphone, please come forward to the podium at this time if you have anything you'd like to say. Didn't know if Sharon was going to have a comment here. For a second time, I ask, is there anybody else have anything to ask about this here or have concerns? This third time asking, is there anyone that would like to speak about this and concern? Hearing none, I would like to close this portion of the meeting. Do I have make a motion to close this public hearing?
No, we don't need a motion.
Oh, it's stated in this.
Oh, no,
Okay.
we don't need one.
Okay, I'm just following the rules here. Okay, we have no motion. Okay, with that, at this time, we're going to discuss the fact and finding questions. Are we ready for them?
Just, Mr. Chair, I have one more question for the applicant, please.
Go ahead, Clint.
Just reading through kind of what you answered for these questions, you mentioned in there soon to be retiring. So you looking at this being still just a getaway or a possible residence?
To be honest, I think we'd probably use it in the summertime, but in the wintertime, we
Okay.
want to go somewhere a little warmer.
Yep, okay. Okay, that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, we'll start this off here, and if you don't mind me picking on you, Brent, you're a seasoned veteran here. And the first question, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan?
I'm struggling with this. We're looking at an impervious surface calculation of 6.45. We're looking at an expansion of a dwelling that's in the shore impact zone. We don't meet the setbacks. There isn't a building envelope, and we're considering an expansion, not just a rebuild when we put a basement in there with living space. And so along those lines, I don't think that it is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance or the Comprehensive Plan.
Any other board members would like to respond to that? Something that I want to chat about is, or mention, the comp plan is to protect and enhance and maintain the quality of surface water. And that means protecting the bluff and the shore impact zone. And any type of expansion in that is not in line with county ordinance. Question number 2. This one goes to me, to George, Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance?
Well, kind of like Brent, struggle with it. I guess we are not changing the footprint. We are intensifying the use. But also, it's just a bedroom in a lower level, and the applicant has stated that they're not gonna be living there, and I guess that's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Anybody else have any other comments you like that?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Clint.
What I'd just like to say about it is, 6.4% impervious surface, that's like super good. We don't see a lot of these like that. So that's great. What the applicant's proposing to do, I appreciate that they're willing to buy this property, fix up that cabin. It's gonna be way better looking, all that. It's just such a small lot, you can't really do anything with it, you're kinda stuck with it. It's a cabin lot. But yeah, so part of it is really reasonable. Now we look at the expansion part of it. Yes, you're not going any bigger, but the use is more expanded, so now more people can be part of it. That's kind of, we just went through this here a couple months ago, the definition of expansion. This is still part of expansion. So question 2, I could kind of say yes, but also no. So just wanted to throw out them points.
And I guess also I'm thinking about it, you have the right to rebuild what you have and with consideration of the bluff and the shore impact zone. And I totally agree with Clint has to say with that. Anybody else have anything else to add to that one? Okay, question number 3. With the issue of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality, that would be you, Clint.
Okay, as far as, the little structure, you got a small lot, that's what's kind of going on right through the whole neighborhood, so that part of it, yes, that fits in great. We like that there's a lot of trees right there in front, the shoreline's fairly maintained, kind of like we like to see it. All them things, yes, go along with it. As far as the lake part of it, will that alter the character with this extra development? What part of it is the footprint's not changing. You got a small area. You still got, the water that's getting there. Nothing's really going to change that way. But just intensified the use. I'd question if, that's just going to put more foot traffic. Things get beat down more, I don't know. Maybe you'll never have anybody visit. But when we're looking at a variance, we're looking at 20 years from now. The next owner would take it and we add on to it. It's still adding on. Now, instead of 3-4 people being at that cabin, we could have 15 of them, so we got to look at this. It's not just for you, it's for the property, for the future too. So that's what I'd kind of say for this.
Thank you, Clint. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
I agree with a lot of what Clint had to offer there. I think we do need to address the fact that this is in the shore impact zone, and the essential character of the neighborhood and the essential character of all lake areas is to protect that first 50 feet. And this is intensifying that. It's increasing, the expansion in a basement area directly on that 50-foot shore impact zone. And so that is not what is in the locality of the area, nor is it, for that matter, anywhere else in the county. So I struggle with this question as well on that regard.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything else to add to that? Okay, well then I'll take question number 4. Is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Well, you just bought this property, 1 month. The cabin didn't meet your needs, small lot, small cabin, and don't see it as a practical difficulty in that respect. What you want to do, I think majority of us support, understand, we want to see that. Something needs to be done. It is dilapidated, it needs work, and what you want to propose, you're not asking for much, but is still considered expansion, and it's an expansion in where it's at. it doesn't align with county ordinance, but I mean, see where you're coming from with that. But by that, I don't believe it's in line with ordinance. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Okay, number 5. Is the need for the variance created by actions other than a landowner or prior landowners? Brent?
I think this is created by the landowner. It's a request coming before us for an expansion of the property. They're capable of and allowed to rebuild what's already existing there, but they want to expand it. And so that's what requires the variance, and so that action is created by the new landowners.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? Hearing none, question number 6. Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? George?
Mr. Chairman, well, the house is gutted, it's on pillars, and again, I guess reiterate, they did buy property that did not meet their needs. Yeah, it's in a bad spot, it's on the toe of a bluff. All those things, they involve more than the economic considerations, but that's all I have.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Clint.
I just had to add, it's maybe not just for this question, but the whole thing. There's some goods in this, especially for a landowner and for us. Like I said earlier, the 6.45% impervious surface, that's great. We like to see that, especially on kind of a bluff that comes in there, and, all that stuff. Now, from a landowner, I don't know too many cabins that are 10 feet from the water. That I haven't seen one on this board that we had to make a decision. That don't mean there isn't any, so that's great. I respect that you purchased it and you want to redo it. That's good for not only that property, but for that lake, because otherwise who knows what would happen, and, it could fall in the lake because it's so close. So that's some good things. So I do think on this question 6, though, I think it's not just economics. He's just trying to do the most he can with what he's got. Yes, maybe he bought something that, he bought it with no intentions of putting a basement. He looks at it and decides I should put a basement on there because it makes some sense to you. So yeah, if there's more than economics, I think here considered for this question 6. So just wanted to throw them thoughts out there.
Anybody else have anything to add? Hearing none, we ready to place our votes? Okay, first question. Is the request in harmony with the general purpose and intent of Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comp Plan? Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
And myself is also no. Number 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? George?
Yes.
Clint?
I'll say yes.
Myself is no. Brent?
No.
Number 3, will the issue of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Clint?
This one here, I gave answers for, both the structure and the lake. And I guess with what my answer was for the essential character of kind of the lake, I'd have to say no on this one.
Myself, I think it fits in with the way they are built in heavy there. Not that I agree with it, so I'm going to say yes. Brent?
No.
George?
Yes, and I'm kind of with Marv on it. All the lots there are non-conforming. There's no building envelope on the property. So I'm yes.
Okay. Number 4, is the alleged practicality due to circumstances unique to the property. Myself, no. Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowners or prior landowners? Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Myself is also no. Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Myself, yes, and Brent?
I didn't find a practical difficulty early on, and so I have to answer this question with no as well.
Okay, at this time, how many do we have in?
We have 5 of the 6 answered in the no, so you'll ask for a motion to deny.
So we have 5 of the 6 that are no. Do we have a motion to deny this?
Mr. Chair, I'd make that motion.
Brent made it. Second.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of denying this here, say aye. Brent?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Myself is also aye. Your motion has been denied. You have any questions, contact Land Services. Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. See what I said, Mike? You said a last question? I was gonna state that there is no practical difficulty, but I'm saying yes because of kind of the whole thing. Yeah.
That's kind of where I was at with it, too.
Are you ready? Okay, our next one for our agenda is Joseph McKernan at 31097 Fish Trap Lake Drive, Cushing, Minnesota. After fact variance to continue an addition onto a non-conforming structure located in lots 69 and 70 on Panchor's lots, section 29, township 132, range 31, Scandia Valley Township. At this moment, what is it? I don't think you can, was it step forward? So will we have him on the Zoom first here?
Mr. Chair, Joe is on via Teams. Joe, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, can you please state your name for the record?
Joseph McKernan,
And your address?
906 Cypress Road, apartment 211, St. Cloud, Minnesota, 56303.
Okay, thank you. At this moment, what is it? Can I get a staff report?
You bet, Mr. Chair. Again, this is an after-the-fact variance request to expand a dwelling within the bluff and the lake setback located in section 29 of Scandia Valley Township. The ordinance references for this request is 706.1 and 706.1A, 706.1B, and E. Then here's a plat map of Scandia Valley Township, and here's the location of the parcel with the red dot. And then here's the application received from the applicant. And then here is a photo submitted by the applicant, I believe, after your packet had been sent out, and he may refer to that. And then here is an aerial photograph of the parcel outlined in blue, and then some oblique imagery of the property. And then here is a view from the lake. And then here are some photos taken at the site visit. Again, the property is in section 29 of Scandia Valley Township on Fish Trap Lake. The parcel is a non-conforming single lot size, meaning it's less than 120 feet wide at the lake and 30,000 square feet in area. The parcel is 50 feet wide and 6,090 square feet. According to the assessor's records, a 624 square foot dwelling with a full basement built in 1947 is on the property. The structure starts at the water's edge, and from the LiDAR elevation contours, it has been concluded that the property has bluff conditions and the dwelling is within the bluff. So here's another shot of the property from the water. And then here is the elevation contours of the property. In April 2023, the Land Services Department received a complaint that an addition had been constructed onto the dwelling. Staff confirmed that an expansion to the dwelling had occurred. And so here are before and after pictures, left 2016 and on the right 2023. And then 1995 and 2023. The Board of Adjustment heard an after-the-fact variance request from Galen and Ann Johnson, who were the recent purchasers of the property, in January of 2024, and that request was denied. The Johnsons have since sold the property back to the previous owner, Joseph McKiernan. He is requesting an after-the-fact variance to keep the expansion on the northeast side of the dwelling he undertook before he sold the property. Exact before and after square footage is not provided, other than the assessor's sketches. And then here are the assessor's sketches with the change in square footage. A compliant building envelope does not exist on the property, and you can see those setbacks from the road and the lake overlap. Shoreland setbacks were adopted in 1972. The Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance adopted bluff standards and setbacks in 1991. The impervious surface calculation is 60%, and that was based on the submitted calculation from a 2016 variance request for this property. 25% impervious surface is allowed. Shoreland setbacks were adopted in 1972, and the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance adopted bluff standards and setbacks in 91. The applicant is offering to remove 294 square feet of the decking on the property, and that would reduce the impervious surface to 51%. And then here's the drawing provided by the applicant with the area of deck removal outlined in red. And then here is a site photo of that area.
See that? There's a tarp underneath there.
The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1. And then the applicable Morrison County comprehensive water plan goals and objectives is surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objectives B and D. 85 notices were sent. One comment was received prior to the hearing, and I'll read that. This is from Ron Nypan. He stated, item 2 regards an after-the-fact variance. I do not want this variance to be granted. Unless there are extraordinary circumstances, no after-the-fact variances should be approved. People continue to make changes and then ask for forgiveness after the changes have been made. The only way to stop this practice is to deny after-the-fact variances and make property owners remove and rectify all unapproved modifications. Okay, and then there are your finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Amy. For the record, on 426, it was it again, you heard Amy, I, Clint, and George were there, and Brent, you said you were there on?
I stopped by there on the 23rd.
Yes, and we seen it previous to that hearing there, so that's record. Any, Joseph, any corrections or input or comments you'd like to make at this time?
Well, I think I explained, I hope I did anyway, why I want the request. It's because I can't use the cabin because of the mold situation. If we remove, basically the enclosure of the 6x8 entranceway already had a floor in it, and it already had a permitted roof covering it. We had a leaking problem starting in 2012. We couldn't solve it. We couldn't use the cabin because of black mold. I mean, we didn't know what to do for years. We didn't use the cabin the way we couldn't spend the night there. My wife was sick. You know, with her, she had allergies, lung conditions, and the black mold was not something she should be exposed to. At that time, we, honestly, we just couldn't find any contractor that could help us or give us any suggestions. And then somebody said, well, I don't know where that leakage is coming from, try enclosing the entranceway. And I applied for variance, and it would have been granted if I could take my, the boathouse down. The picture of the cracked foundation that Amy showed you, the boathouse is supporting the foundation. We basically tied the back of the boathouse to the front of the foundation to shore up that cracking, because the cabin started leaning into the lake, and that has worked. It has pretty much stopped that crack from shifting. If I remove the boathouse, then potentially that cabin's gonna collapse into the lake. So, and I can take off the upper level decks. And I didn't add it in here, but there is a set of stairs on the side of the boathouse, toward, not the main stairs, but another set of stairs. We can take that off too, and I guess we'd have to calculate the reduction of impervious surface there, but it's a one-story set of stairs. So yeah, that could also be removed. I don't know what else I can take off from that, because basically, the enclosure is not to expand the cabin, and that wasn't the intent. It was to stop the leakage, which we don't know. I don't even know why that worked, but it did work. I know initially in 2016, the board was concerned it wasn't going to help. It, thank God, did help. If we tear it all off, and I do have a bid there from a contractor who just says, if we tear this up, I'm not going to guarantee you won't have a leaky cabin and mold again, and you'll be right back to where you started. So, I mean, that kind of is the issue right there. It's a major health issue. It's just, the cabins would be a condemned property, basically, without keeping that water out of the kitchen. I don't know what else we can do. I don't know why it started leaking. That cabin's been a nightmare. I mean, that's why you would never permit that building today, and you shouldn't. And I didn't know any better when I bought it, and we put a lot of money into it to try to hold the whole thing together and try to also control the water runoff to not contaminate the lake. We love the lake. We want the best for the area. We raised our family there. We spent the better part of our summers there for, how many, 30 plus years. We're not trying to make trouble. I just honestly didn't know what else to do. It just came down to that.
Thank you. Any of the board members got any questions, concerns, or comments to make to staff at this time?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I got some questions for Mr. McKiernan. So when you did fix the kitchen, right? You remodeled it or fixed it after you stopped the leak?
Yes, after the leak was stopped. Yeah, because there was no point in doing anything while the water was still getting in and the mold was growing.
Yep. Okay, and then when you fixed, remodeled that kitchen, and I'm assuming you took all the insulation out and all that because you had to get rid of the mold and all that. Is there any treatment they did inside that wall before it got put back together, or what? Can you maybe tell us what you did there?
Spray foam.
Okay. And then how long did you own the cabin before the mold problem?
Oh, since 1980.
Okay. So here's where I'm going with this, because I'm thinking, what floor is the kitchen on?
The lower level.
The lowest
built
level.
into the hill.
Okay. Okay, so here's where my train of thought is. So it took from 1980 or whatever you took over the cabin for this to get mold or bad enough for you to notice. You know, it takes time. So you put the roof on, you fix it because they say that it's not going to leak in. You redo that kitchen. I think you're on the lowest level. I think it's just coincidence at the time. When you look, you're in a bluff. That's dirt all the way from the top down to that kitchen. The water can come in there anywhere. I think you're still going to see problem with that kitchen. They should have tiled it somehow to get rid of that water. The water still can go anywhere from inside that bluff and go underneath there. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But for it to get down to that lower level, why wasn't it in like the upper level?
I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understand what you're asking me. You're asking me what is going to prevent the water from getting in the kitchen?
Yes.
I know, it's a great question. You know, honestly, I don't know why it started leaking in around 2012 after all those years. Something shifted. All I can tell you is when we enclosed that 6x8 space, we haven't had any more leakage. So that solved the problem. Could another problem arise again? I think potentially yes. I just don't understand. You know, again,
Yeah.
you know, I know the forces of that bank are tremendous, and especially on an older foundation.
Yep.
It really, the most damage we've ever seen, you get a rainy autumn with a tough, hard winter with a lot of sub-zero, with a lot of expansion in that clay bank. That's where you get your shifting from.
Yep.
And that there were two major events in the 40-plus years that we've owned it that caused shifting. So
Yep.
that, I guess it all depends on the weather, really.
Yeah. I guess my point I was making was not saying it didn't leak in and you had mold in there, but at the same time that you put that roof on and you said it stopped leaking, you also fixed the kitchen. It might take 10 years before you know that it's moldy again, is just kind of what my comment was leading towards.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a little hard time hearing all of your comments.
Okay.
Could you say it again, please?
Yeah. So I guess what I'm looking at is it took, you know, whatever it leaked, you got mold in the kitchen, you've put your roof up, you said that it stopped the leaking. But at the same time, you also fixed the kitchen and redid that, and you said it stopped the leak. But maybe in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it might still be leaking in and you'll have mold problems again. You don't know because you sealed it up. You see what I'm saying? You know, you say it fixed the problem, but how do you know it fixed the problem?
Well, okay, we'll go back to 2012. I mean, we tore the kitchen out, and we didn't have a kitchen for about, well, I don't know, 4 or 5 years because it was still leaking. So we couldn't use the cabin. We live in Rice, so we would drive up for the day and go home. We used a lot of bleach and fans and, try to control the black mold, but because we hadn't solved the leakage problem. So we didn't redo the kitchen until after we enclosed the 6x8 space and then watched to see if it was leaking anymore, and then it stopped leaking, and it hasn't leaked since.
Okay.
Any more questions, Clint? You're done?
I'm good at this time.
Okay. Brent, do you have some questions? At this?
I did. This is probably for Joseph. Hopefully you can hear me well. I'm curious in that space that you enclosed upstairs under the roof line. I wasn't here in 2016. Maybe another board member can fill me in on that a little bit more, but I was here when there was a review done on this in 2024 with Galen Johnson. And I'm curious just exactly the expansion that took place behind that enclosure of that wall. If you could let me know what was done there. I understand the kitchen is in the basement area, which would be a floor below that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
So above that kitchen in the enclosed space, what expansion was done there?
So we had always used the 6x8 covered entranceway for storage. So after we expanded it, we used it for storage inside the wall instead of basically in the same space, except for there was a wall on the outside. We put a washing machine in there. That was probably the only, major improvement. I think the one issue for me anyway was I had a permitted 12 by 16 roof line, and that any walls that were put in do not go past that roof line. I think the biggest mistake I made was thinking that the roof line was the footprint. And then I learned later, no, that's not how we call it. And so there was an expansion of the footprint. And I still am confused to this day how much we actually expanded. Amy, do you know the exact square footage that was expanded?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
No, I haven't been able to wrap my arms around it because I don't really have a very clear before and after.
And I never could figure it out either. I thought we were within the footprint, but I assume it's that 6x8 space that, with the permitted 12 by 16 roof over it, that when we put the, when we enclose that space, that then was the expansion of the footprint, 48 square feet?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
Maybe this is a question for Amy, but I think I remember somewhere in this year when Galen had presented us with something, we were looking at maybe some of the real estate listing photographs that showed some of the expansion that was done on the inside of this corner of that house.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to wrap around. I guess we're talking about a 6-foot wall and an 8-foot wall, but behind those walls, seemed to me there was a bathroom, there was a laundry room, there was tile flooring, there was significant expansion there. And that was a definition that was defined in the county ordinance that we had some discussion about.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I can certainly bounce back to that PowerPoint if you'd like to review those pictures, if you'd like Mr. McKiernan to comment on those. I think one of the issues also with the Johnson was we were untangling what exactly had happened, and in looking over the permitting, it appears there was a permit for some roof, but there was additional roof that got put on at that time. So we had some roof that went beyond the permit, and then all of that was enclosed from what we could tell. But if you'd like me to pull up that PowerPoint, I certainly can if you'd like to review those photos.
Mr. Chair, for the purpose of this, I think it would be appropriate for us to
I
take
sure
a look
can.
at that to give us some better understanding, and maybe if Joseph, hopefully he's able on Teams to view this and actually explain from the photographs what took place there.
I agree with that, so if, Amy, if you could do that. And
I sure will.
This was before George was on the board, so it would be advantageous for him to see it also.
Let me see where those are. I think this was the one. Otherwise, it might have been in their appeal. I think it might have been in their appeal, so I'll need to pull up a different file. I'm not seeing those interior photos here. That might have been, I believe, for the appeal. So give me just a second to pull that up.
Okay.
That was in 2023.
While we're waiting on this, I had a question for you, Joseph. I know that engineering firms come at a price tag. And also it does, I'm sure you're well aware of the price tag where this cabin went and where it's at for you right now. But did you consult any engineering firm with water control, damage, or recommendations, what to do before you did anything, put them walls in?
No, because basically it would have, well, I assume, because we had talked to enough contractors that they said, well, you got to dig out the whole foundation and inspect the whole thing. And it really came down to how the heck you're going to do that.
Okay. Well, Amy has got the picture up here now, and we can go back to this, but with that being said, the contractors were the decisions, or what you based your decision on there. Thank you. Amy, would you bring these, or can you see them now?
So, Mr. Chair, these are from the appeal when we were weighing what expansion versus improvement was. And so I think the two slides that Brent is referring to is this one and, let me get my mouse here, and this one. Are those the photos that you're
Yeah.
referring to?
Correct. I mean, it would go in conjunction with 13 through 16 on this.
Let me get to that. So this,
So Joe, can you see these pictures?
Yes, I can.
Can you elaborate on them?
Yes, I can. Could we show the footprint of the cabin? Okay, so, oops, I wish I could enlarge. I don't know, Amy, do you just have a picture of just the footprint enlarged? Because I can't see all of this numbers.
get one moment here, I just need to get
Okay.
I need to get a different view of it for myself here, so. Oops. I just need to pull it off and, hang on. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so the CNN 1947 80 square feet, that is the bathroom. So when you looked at the picture of a remodeled bathroom, that included, yes, that already had a roof on it that was permitted. We covered that roof over with that 20 by 16 permitted roof. Now, it was my understanding that was not part of the 12 by 16 because that was already part of the footprint of the cabin, and it was not it's classified on the, if you look at the original permit that we got from Roger Klukluk as an addition, and so that was not an addition, that was already there. And so then we covered the space. So then you look at that CNN 2021, 16 square feet, that would be the actual, that's under the 12 by 16 roof, which again, I was under the impression was the footprint. Apparently it is not, so I was wrong. So the expansion of that picture of that bathroom is 16 square feet. The 80 square feet was already there. We remodeled it. We were going to remodel it anyway. um, because we were getting older at that time and we were going to spend more time at the cabin, and it needed a good once over. It was getting pretty bad. But so that, so I guess I'm still confused. I know Amy just mentioned, gee, you know, they put in more than a 12 by 16 roof. But I guess in my mind, I'm subtracting out that 80 square feet because that already had a roof on it. And that was not an addition. So I guess, I don't know.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
So I just want to know what the wishes of the board. I can certainly go through this entire thing and talk about the history of the permitting and all of that if you would like me to. Because I think that, I made this case in the appeal as far as what had changed, what hadn't, what was permitted, what wasn't. Do you wish for me to go through that?
Clint, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Amy, so basically what we're looking at here is he put walls up. The roof was permitted.
So,
The whole roof was permitted. It's the wall that went up that's the issue, right?
no.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to need to go through all of this with you as far as if you want to know that total history. And I just want to know the bearing this has. I understand that you're trying to wrap your arms around what exactly was done, how much square footage are we looking, how much are we approving? Because if it's denied, then that's what would need to be taken away. So I think it is important to try to establish with the original owner, which we did not have the benefit of him being at that meeting to explain that. I think what a lot of this comes down to is a misunderstanding of what the right was, and then some oversteps that happened along the way. So I certainly can go through that with you because, like I said, this was the original footprint of the cabin that you can see, and that little square in the upper left was the bathroom. So that's what we're getting back to is when we're determining what do you have a right to, what is a legal nonconformity that this, let me get to this. This is the original in the yellow, that is the original footprint of the home. This was the bathroom right here. And so that's that 5 by 8 or 10 by 8 area that he's referring to. So you can see it here. They have it's listed here as the bathroom. This was related to a variance request back in 1990. So this was kind of the original footprint of the cabin. And I just got to find my mouse. I've got so much stuff open. So let's just there we go. Let me see if I can't advance. So then in 1995 is where that entrance. Okay, I'll wait until, because it's important. Are you ready?
Are you guys all ready here? Okay.
Okay. So if you look at your screen, because you don't have this in your packet, this was the 6 by 8 entrance that was put on. And that's the entrance, the original entrance. And then the permitting then, there was some roof over deck that was also permitted with that. And I'm going to see if I can go back. So this is the permit. And it was a 6 by 8 entrance bay and new roof, 12 by 16. That's what was permitted, okay? When you go to it, here's the entrance right here. And this is the 12 by 16. Then there's more here that was not permitted. So that's when the assessor picks all of this up. That's more than 12 by 16. So here, this is permitted, this is permitted, this was not permitted. And so it was, and at that time in 1995, it was roof over deck. Okay, no walls, no enclosure, not considered part of the square footage of the home. And then, so this is what it had looked like. Here's the area focus of what we're looking at, what happened here. So now we see it change in 2021 to ONN, 1 story, no basement. That means this is all now included as part of the living, excuse me, the square footage of the square footage of the home. It's been enclosed. What exactly is occupied in these areas? I don't know. I have not been in the structure. So this is the area that our understanding is that was enclosed, because here's that deck that runs alongside. If you recall that, we walked along that at the viewing. But all of this became part of the home in 2021. So before and after. And then these are the photos from that side of the home. What we're assuming is occupied in those areas. The laundry room, which Mr. McKiernan did say that they put in a washer. And then the bathroom, which appears to have been expanded from that original dimension. Because this door is along that back side. That's the original entrance to the bathroom that I pointed out when we were on site. The other door that walks into this room. So I guess that's what we've figured out with what the extent of the expansion was. Some of that might have had roof over deck, but it wasn't considered part of the home, so all of that for us is an expansion.
So board members, you able to digest all that happened there? Brent, you had some more?
Yeah, I just wanted
Yeah,
to clarify that so that we bring it back out, because when we were looking at Galen, he didn't know the history of this, and so
Yeah.
now that we have a request in front of us for an after-the-fact permit, we have Joseph here that knows all of this firsthand. This is his opportunity to explain all of that for the record.
yes, and I think it's important to understand that, so.
So we're here to hear you out, Joe. So if you have any response to this?
Sure. Could we go back, Amy, to the picture of the cabin before and after the enclosure, the one you're looking up from the road?
That one?
Right there. Yeah, okay, so there's the cabin the way it was before the walls were put in. And if you notice you got your roof line going down on the right side, and you got that wall there. That had always been, since we owned the cabin, the size of the cabin. So we had and I don't know, I bought it that way. So the actual 80-foot bathroom had been expanded a long time ago into that 16 square foot area. And that wall had been there. So I did not know that was an expansion. I mean, that was there before since we've had the cabin. And so that was news to me when all this stuff, after the complaint was made. I just wanted to point that out. So we didn't know when we remodeled that bathroom, we did not know we were expanding anything. We just, thought that's the bathroom, or that's the footprint, but it's not. Now that I know that now, because I've been watching this. So honestly, I just didn't understand a lot of what, just kind of, that space always kind of confused me. And the 6x8 covered entrance, that's impervious. It's got a floor on it. Again, I had assumed that roof line was the footprint, and it's not. I don't know what it means when I was permitted to do a entranceway expansion, but it means that you cannot enclose it and increase the footprint. And I realize that now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think the rest of the board do too. So, George, it looked like you had some questions at this time, too.
Yeah, I guess I just had a question, Mr. Chairman. Amy, how many permits have there been on this property over the years? Any idea? I guess where I'm going with that is, with all the expansions, that may have caused the water problem too.
Most of the permitting that's on file, like the original home was prior to land use controls, and you can see, the dates. So the physical additions to this were. There's a lot of permitting history, but mostly it's decking and stairs. So you can see this is original 1947, 1947, 1947. So the actual physical addition of the living space that was permitted is 1995. The rest of this is all roof and or deck. And that's the permitting history that I have for this property, because when those were done, that's when we had land use controls and were doing permits.
So is that kitchen would probably be the northeast corner of the 1947 addition? Is that where the kitchen is?
That would be a better question for Joe.
Can you help me out with that, Joseph?
Yeah, your kitchen's down, right, your kitchen's down on that first level.
Okay, so it would be in a northeast corner, basically, if that's northeast?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions at this time? Okay, with hearing no other questions at this time, I wish to open this up for public comment. Anybody, public comment, would you please come to the podium, state your name for the record? Any public comment? Third time, any public comment? With that being said, I'm going to close that motion, or close this to the public hearing. Now we're going to discuss the findings and facts of the questions. And are there any conditions the board would like to discuss at this time?
Mr. Chair, just give me 1 second to reset all of this, so Mr. McKiernan can see what we're doing here. Oh, actually, let me. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Clint.
me and Amy just got this all set. I want her to look for one picture.
What's that?
So, being we got this all set, I need you to go look for a picture, because Mr. McKiernan saying that he's proposing to tear out some of the deck. Could you take us back to that picture?
Yes, I absolutely can. And that's within this PowerPoint, so I can
Okay.
do that. So give me
Okay.
one moment.
And we do appreciate you trying to lower that impervious surface, so thank you for
Okay,
that.
so we're, when we're looking at this, he's talking about moving or taking out this deck. But then also, I could see through the picture, if I'm seeing right, that looks like there's blue tarp underneath the gravel or whatever's there.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So that's actually more impervious surface there.
If that is the whole, if that's not just pieces, and if it's spanning the whole, I wonder if Mr. McKiernan can talk about this area and what has.
Right. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, Amy. Yeah, no, that's the holding tank is there underneath that. Again, we were trying to figure out how to just stop water from hitting that area to stay as much away from the foundation as we could. If that is, and I think it might be, now that I know better, impervious surface, we'll tear all that out too and put in whatever the board recommends. I think vegetation, I've kind of heard the board talk about that. We can certainly follow your advice on that. When we take all that decking out, we can take out any of that kind of coverage and make a big garden there, if that's what the board is recommending.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Amy.
So one of the things too is I think when we're looking at the impervious surface calculation, we're working off of the one that was submitted back in 2016, and it wasn't detailed as far as what it's, so, Joe, it's been many years ago, but was that area considered, was that counted as impervious surface in your calculation back in 2016? Do you recall?
I'm pretty sure it was, because that is, well, oh, I'm sorry, the area where you see that little blue and stuff?
Yes, yes.
Great question. I honestly don't know.
Okay. And you said your holding tank is in that area?
Yep.
Okay, and so a contractor would need to have decent access to that, so any sort of, landscaping or anything would have to be taken into consideration with being able to have access to that holding tank, I'm assuming.
They really, what they do, Amy, is they park their truck on the road and they run
Run the
the
hose
pipe
on.
straight to the
Okay.
road, and then they're going to drain it. There's a
Okay.
pipe sticking up to the right of that chair, so I think we could, we can plant it, I believe, and not interfere with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
maybe that, now that Clint has got Amy to pull this photo up, if Joseph can, for my benefit, explain to me, because I wasn't there on the Friday, I viewed it a week ahead of time, what you're proposing to remove as far as decking here and/or privacy areas, so that I'm assuming Clint might make a condition that we could also consider along with this moving forward as we review everything.
Sure. Okay, so all of that deck you're looking at, right there, yeah, we'll tear all that out. If you go back to that last picture for a second, Amy, you see that black, that's a wood pile, but that's still impervious surface. We'll take that out. You had a picture looking down at the cabin where you could see all of that decking, and there's also a little outdoor tool shed. If you go out that door in the upper level bathroom, there's a tool shed about 3 feet away from there. We want to tear that out also. I don't know if you can find that picture, Amy?
Yeah, I will see, I thought I had a picture of the side, so give me just a second to see if I think this is probably the best picture I have.
There you go.
Is it
Yep,
this?
that's it. Yep, exactly. We'll take all that out. I wanted to leave 3 feet of that decking outside of that door, just to have a little bit of something to step on. But I mean, if the board said tear it all out, we'll tear it all out.
Okay, anybody else got any questions?
Mr. Chair, where does all the water from the roof go? Can you answer that one for me, Joe?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Go ahead.
Joseph, where does all the water from all the roof, where does that water end up? All the runoff on the roof?
Yeah, we have it guttered. Everything is guttered. And basically that water is running over to, I think most of, I don't know if you have pictures of the guttered roof. Maybe it's on the other side that's guttered.
You have gutters on the other side, but on the lake side, I see no gutters when I was down there. And your facial's starting
No.
to rot out and is going to need some attention. at the lakeside there.
Good
So that
point.
water
Yes,
looks like it's going on top of the deck and towards the lake.
Okay, well, there's your gutter right there, and then there's a gutter on the backside. That right there is going yeah, okay, so there's another gutter. So that goes basically onto the, I don't know if you got a picture of it, but there are scalloped, I don't know what you call it. We put in retaining walls on the right side and with crushed rock because that was done years ago, because the chimney is on a separate footing from the cabin, and that was breaking away. That chimney was starting to erode out. So we supported that whole side. Yeah, you can see there's one of the scallops there. The rest of them are covered in snow. And so we're basically draining into that area there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Clint.
Just a comment, I don't need no answers back on this before we go through our things. Just something to think about here. We're sitting here and we're talking and you might think, well, why is everybody so bent out of shape over such a small square footage? When we look here, we got 6,090 square foot lot. The neighbor has an 8,200 square foot lot that we just told no for a small expansion also. Different circumstances, right up to the lake, back and forth. But when you look at that structure, this is like a castle. Sitting down at the lake and you look up and it's just so overdeveloped, this piece of property. Okay, why would we allow just this little expansion? It's just so over the top. Part of it's the bluff, the lake, all them things. So that's why this decision is so hard that we're fighting through. So just keep that in mind when we're going through this. That yeah, this isn't easy. None of us wants to make somebody tear something out. But when you look at this whole thing, we got 6,000 square foot lot. You get down on the bottom. From the top, you look down and it looks like it's a lot of development there. But when you're on the bottom and look up, there's a lot of development here. Yes, this is a very small thing. He's willing to tear something out and kind of horse trade a little bit. It's just something to think about as we go forward, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Well, are we ready for the questions here? Clint, I hope you don't mind that you're pretty seasoned here, and we'll start you off here. First question, if you're ready. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some notes here, so just bear with me till I get all lined out here. Okay. So we got a few in our ordinance here. In 705.6A, we got shore impact zone. That's what we're dealing with, part of this. Structures, impervious surfaces, and accessory facilities, except stairways, lifts, landings, and mobility paths must not be placed within the shore impact zone. The following shore impact zone apply according to classification of body water. So basically what we're looking at here is 50 feet and then our 75-foot ordinance for a setback. And then we got other setbacks here in B, 10 feet from the side yard, top of bluff 30, right away, all these other things we got to look at. And then we also have a bluff impact zone. Structures, impervious surface, accessory facilities must not be placed within a bluff impact zone. Further, no evacuation disturbance is allowed, or excavation, no excavation disturbance is allowed except for the following: install a stairway, lift, or landing, installation of a septic system, incidental disturbance with the structural setback from the top of the bluff to construction or a permitted structure. Best management practices and low impact installation techniques shall be utilized. And then when we look at our nonconformity section, nonconformity lots and structures shall follow the provisions within section 301 of the ordinance, except that a change in roof pitch on a principal dwelling that increases overall height but does not result in a gain in living space shall be allowed with a permit if it meets the height allowance. So when we look through all that, and then also we look through our comprehensive plan and our goals that we have, like for natural resource, open space, preserve the resources, identify critical sensitive habitats for wildlife, wetlands, things like that, look at all of our shoreline development. So then when we kind of go to answer this question, when I look at this, granting this variance, will it or will not alter I'm looking at the wrong one here. Okay, so is this request in harmony and intent the county land use ordinances? I just read a bunch of them. So here we're trying to protect the lake, the bluff from erosion, water runoff, things like that. So when we look at this, is it or is it not in harmony? I would say it's not in harmony. It's just the covered addition or whatever we're talking for this variance is a really small ask, but this property is so overexpanded. There's so much expansion for what the buildable area is. More expansion, more use already. It's kind of way overused for that property. It's way over impervious surface. He's suggesting declining that some, but this is one of the highest ones I've been involved with on this board, and I haven't really seen any way to mitigate this over expansion, not just this little thing he's looking at, but the total property. So I guess I would have to say no to that question.
And to piggyback off of Clint's statement there, the comp plan says to protect and enhance the quality surface water and protect the bluff in the shore impact zone. Placing all them rocks and boulders in there, I appreciate some of that because it definitely prevented erosion, but then increased impervious surface. Building or expanding in a bluff and a shore impact zone does not align with the county ordinance. Any other board members have any comments on that one?
Well, I guess foremost, Mr. Chairman, it says we're supposed to do this in a thoughtful and deliberate manner. And I guess that's why we're having all this deliberation here tonight.
Thank you. Brent, do you have anything to add to that?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Question number 2. I'll take that. Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Enclosing walls or to protect both is reasonable. Is there better ways to resolve the problem? As I asked earlier, if you ended up consulting an engineering firm, you didn't, you contact the contractors, and contractors, a lot of them do know their stuff, but going ahead and expanding in a nonconformity and increasing impervious surface where that high is still not reasonable. Dropping it down to 50%, it definitely helps. 10% helps, but we're nowhere near the 25% where we need to be. Anybody else have any other comments to that? Number 3, will the issue of the variance maintain an essential character of the locality? Brent?
I got a couple thoughts on this. I think as far as maintaining the essential character of the locality, being that it's there and existing the way it is, nobody's going to notice the difference. But the point is that this wasn't there before, and it was an opening. It was a deck. It was supposed to have a roof over a deck, and a roof over a deck became an enclosure. An enclosure became part of a dwelling. And so we kind of got to back this thing up and look at how it progressed to get to the point where it is now to see, does it maintain the essential character of the locality? I think if we backed up to the beginning it wouldn't. I think if you look at it right now and say, what are we going to do? It would. And so I struggle with this in that regard, but I think we have to look at this as if it wasn't done, and we were going to grant this to be done. I think then we're looking at it differently, and I would say that it doesn't meet the essential character of the locality because we are in that shore impact zone. We are within the setback. We are compressing a lot into a small lot on a hill, on a bluff, and all of that is not what is the essential character of the locality in a cabin or a home.
Thanks, Brent. Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, number 4, is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. George, you get that?
Well, I struggle with this one here. There are some practical difficulties here. You know, we're sitting on top of a bluff, and the whole building extends down to the lake. You know, he's getting water in the basement, so yes, there is a practical difficulty. I just don't think that that he looked at fixing it in the right way.
Anybody else have anything to add to it?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Clint.
I would say that, the roof was there. By enclosing this, I don't understand how that stopped water. So I don't know how we can use that as a practical difficulty. Unique to this property, yeah, it's already overdeveloped. Don't meet many of the setbacks already due to the overdevelopment. It's a small lot. It needs a small structure. It's been there a long time before, part of it was before any of these ordinance came in effect. But it's just, it's hard for that such a small lot to have that so much development on it.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay, number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowners or prior landowners? The need for the variance, I feel, was because the water and mold problem, but I believe that was created by the owner himself because of the additions that kept on been adding on, and if they would have been done in a more of a thoughtful way, engineered way, it wouldn't have gone to that. That is my feelings on that one. Anybody else have anything else to add to that? Number 6, does
Mr. Chair.
alleged practical difficulty involve more than,
Mr. Chair?
go ahead, Brent.
I was just going to add that, when we talk about actions of the landowner or the prior landowner, I think Joseph had indicated that they had owned the property since 1980, some 30-plus years. Many of these advancements, variances, expansions have all taken place over that time frame. So the need for this variance is created by only the landowners, not by anyone else.
Okay, thank you. Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? Brent?
Again, I don't see that we found that there was a practical difficulty here. At least I didn't. And if there isn't a practical difficulty, it's tough to answer this question if it involves more than just economic considerations. Obviously, because things have happened, there's going to be a cost associated with that, but I don't think that that's how we need to look at this question. I just don't think that there's a practical difficulty that exists here.
Okay, Brent, anybody else have anything else to add?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead,
I
Frank.
just kind of piggyback what Brent said, that, yeah, we didn't find no we don't believe there's a practical difficulty here. But then when we look at what he's actually trying to do, yes, it does involve a lot more than just economics. He's not trying to save money, or he's just trying to fix his problem. I don't believe, in my opinion, I don't agree with it, but he's just trying to fix his problem. So I think it does, involve more than just economic consideration.
Okay. With that also being stated, I believe it's also more than economics, but mostly economics, as I believe if you would have hired an engineering firm or a designer, you would have never got to this area. I believe that would have never happened. It would have cost some dollars, some serious dollars, but you would have never got to this point, in my opinion. With that being said, we're ready to proceed with the vote? Okay, number one is a request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and the Comp Plan. Clint?
No.
Myself, no. Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Number two, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Myself, no. Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Number three, will the issue of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Well, I'm going to vote yes because it's been there for 7 years. Number four, is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? George?
Yes.
Clint?
No.
Myself is no. Brent?
No.
Number five, is the need for the variance created by actions other than a landowner or prior landowners? Myself, no. Brent?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Number six, does alleged practical difficulty involve more than just the economic considerations? I start with that one, or no? Brent, how do you feel about that?
No.
George?
No.
Clint?
No.
Myself is also no. I believe we've had, all six are in a no. Can I get a motion here?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Clint.
I'd make a motion that we deny this request.
I'll second it.
Second
Mr.
by
Chairman.
George. All in favor of denying this request? Brent?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Your motion has been denied. If you have any questions, contact Land Services. Okay. Any old business?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any old or new business.
Okay. With that being said, can I get a motion? Are we got a?
Do you have some minutes?
Minutes here, to approve minutes here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Brent did. Can I get
I'll
a
second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
George? All in favor by, signal by stating aye. Brent?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Clint?
Aye.
Myself is also aye. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we adjourn.
Can I get a second?
I'll
Second it.
All in favor, state by, stating aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:12.